Okay, so another option for video editing is using Adobe Premiere Pro. This is not free, but a lot of you probably already have this. And if you don't, it is free for the whole COVID period, or at least the next 2 months. All you need to do is log in with your ANU credentials on the Adobe website, and then you can download this for free for the next 2 months. So I'm just going to click on New Project. Now it's asking me where I want to create this project and what I want it to be called. This is a video I'm making for my video editing tutorial, so I'll go video editing tutorial. That's what it's going to be called, the file. And where it's going to go, you can just go into your default, but I really recommend choosing your own place. So I'm going to go into desktop, create a folder called video editing tut. Open and choose that folder and hit OK. The rest of the options aren't very important. Click OK. Now what that does is it creates a folder on wherever you chose it, called whatever you called it. And in here, it creates that file that we named as well. And other files will eventually go into this folder. Now, the way video editing softwares work is they don't actually bring in your footage into the software and save it into this file. What they do is they just reference your link, or they just reference or link your files. So the file I want to edit is this one over here. So what I recommend you do is you put it inside this folder as well, so that you have one folder and you can just move this wherever you want. So if you need to go to a different computer, or if you need to back it up, it's just one folder to back up. You don't have to find all the files that are lying around. And in here, usually you'll end up having lots of files. So I also like to try to make this a little bit neat. So I'm going to right click, go new folder, and create a folder called video or footage or something like that, up to you. And then you can put all your footage in there, and then you can have a folder for your music, a folder for your audio, that kind of stuff. Anyways, when you're done, if you want to start bringing in footage, you can just go into Premiere and go File, Import, and just navigate and find the file you want. So it's automatically found this folder, and we could just say, yep, that file. Now what that does is it just puts it here, really. So you could also just drag and drop. So you can grab this clip and just drag it and drop it in there instead. Whoops. Okay. Now it's opened up this learn thing. I might close this. But that's a good way to learn the basics. This is your project window, which has all your video footages and stuff inside. And you can watch it if you want by double clicking it and bring it into this window, but that's a little bit confusing, so let's just close that for now. Okay, now if you want to start editing this clip, you need to start putting it in the timeline. The timeline here is where you put in all your edits. Now notice there's only one clip here, but when I drag it into the timeline, it creates another clip. There you go, so now it's created a timeline. And here it looks like it copy-pasted my clip. Now one thing to be aware of is this isn't a clip at all. This is your clip, and this is called a sequence. If I were to view my videos like this with this tool, you'll see that these two clips are a little bit different. One of them has this icon, one of them has this icon. This icon is a sequence, this icon is a clip. A clip is a video clip that you just have from your computer, and a sequence is a timeline. So you see if I can, let me go back to this view if you'd rather this view. I can rename a clip by just clicking here or pressing enter, and then I could call this timeline so I don't get confused. And you'll see over here this gets changed timeline as well. So a timeline can have hundreds of clips inside it. You know, you could put in cuts, you could put in copy pastes and stuff. You can have all this kind of stuff and have like a big film, and that's all your timeline. So your timeline is kind of like your canvas, and your clips are kind of like paints. You put your paints onto your canvas, and there you go. So if I selected this and deleted this, it deletes all my cuts. So just be aware of that. So let's try that. I'll bring that back in there, and I'll press enter and call this timeline again. You could also call this whatever your video is. So video tutorial. And you could bring in multiple clips. It doesn't have to be just the one. So I could go and import, like, just click and drag this from my desktop, put this in there as well, and you can have as many clips as you like. Eventually this will start getting busy, so you can create a folder, and you can start putting stuff into that folder. There we go. So that's my video. Ooh, let's call that folder video or footage, etc. So you can click and drag here to preview your video. Up here is what your final video will look like, and your timeline is also what your final video looks like. If you want to zoom out of this to see your entire clip, you can press minus or plus on your keyboard next to the numbers at the top. Okay, so now when you have a clip in your timeline, you can start editing it. So let's say I want my video to start with this part where it says welcome to iMovie. You can just press play with pressing spacebar, or press play here. And then you can find spots where you want to put in cuts. So you can go, because usually the first part's usually something boring you're just setting up. So let's say I want to start the movie where I start with iMovie, where it's open there. It's kind of in this area, but it's kind of hard for me to click and drag left and right by tiny bits. So I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard. So I'm going to hit right, 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 right. And that moves frames. And you can see when I press the keyboard right, it moves this up one, again, 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 etc. Now if that's a little bit too slow, you can hold down, oh there it is. You can hold down Shift and the arrow keys, and that'll move a few frames at a time. So now I can hold down Shift and then kind of choose where you want. So I'm going to go about there. Or again, you could just try to find it doing this. Another way is you can zoom in by pressing the plus on your keyboard. And then that way you've got a little bit more control with your mouse clicks. Let's say this is where you want to cut it. I can click on this edge and just trim it all the way over here. And what that does is it just throws away whatever was at the beginning. And now you can click and drag this to the beginning of your film. If you ever want to bring it back, I'll just click and drag it back. You can also click and drag the edge that you just cut out and bring it back. So it's never really permanent. So you can just bring in bits if you've cut them out. So let's say I like all this bit, but let's say this part is actually garbage. You can see like I stopped talking here, so I probably want to get rid of this part. You'd watch it, of course, and make sure this part you want to get rid of. But if you want to get rid of a part like this, you would use this tool over here, which is the razor tool. If you click this, you'll see that I can click here and it will just cut. And I could also probably click around there and cut, but you would normally just play it through and find out exactly which spot you want to cut it at, and then you could put in that cut. Remember that once you're done using the razor blade tool, you want to go back to your arrow tool, your selection tool. Because if you try to click and drag and delete this clip now, it'll just add a cut. So you want to select that selection tool so that you can select multiple bits or one bit and hit delete to delete bits. And now I can move this back to this area over here. I'll press minus on my keyboard to zoom out. And let's say I want to get rid of a little bit here at the end. I can click and drag this clip like so, and that will be my cut. Once you're done with that and you're happy with your video, you can go to File, Export, Media, and you could choose how you want to export your media. If this is going to be watched somewhere, I'd recommend choosing a preset of H.264. This is really good for uploading to YouTube, Vimeo, Wattle, whatever. It's really good for being watched. So H.264, depending on how high you want your file size, you could change your bitrate. So currently it's on high bitrate. You can go medium bitrate or try in a few of the other ones to see if you can get a lower file size if you need to. And it gives you a rough estimation of how large that file is going to be. So here's saying 510, that's way too much for me. So I might go medium and 157 megabytes. That's probably going to be good enough. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's close enough. And when you're done, you just click on export. Now this is where it's going to this location over here, output. You could also manually choose where it's going by just clicking here and saying I want it to go to this file, and you could call it file or whatever, save, and then click export. And that's how you do very basic edits in Premiere Pro.